Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I am super excited to show folks one of my favorite things that I've been working on lately, which is working with Python and Excel. So how many folks have used Python to work with spreadsheets before, like separately in Python? Okay. It's sometimes a necessary evil. Like in many jobs I've been at, that's basically the only way we've been able to share data between different teams and things like that. So how many folks here have ever had to write VBA? All right. Do you wish you could use Python instead? Obviously, there wasn't a lot of other options if you wanted to do like fancier data analysis scripting stuff in Excel or in spreadsheets previously. But, and we all know that you should definitely always give your IT admins a heart attack by enabling macros on everything. That was kind of one of the other big trade-offs with having like kind of more advanced scripting in spreadsheets was it generally led to a lot of arbitrary code execution things that were kind of spooky from a security standpoint. So we now have the option that we can actually use the language of, I think a lot of folks who are here generally prefer to use Python. So we can actually do that in a spreadsheet. So there's actually, in the interest of completeness, there's a open source project called PyScript where they basically use PyQt6 to implement a full spreadsheet engine, and you can write Python in there. Some of the trade-offs, though, is it doesn't really work well with a lot of the common spreadsheet sort of formats, whether it's ODB or XLSX. So, but I found it really cool and interesting. It's a well-maintained project, so there's that. But what I'm mostly here to show you today is how to use Python in Excel. So it is pretty much as straightforward as it might sound. You write a function, like normally you do like equals sum or something like that. Here we do equals py, open parentheses, and you can just start writing whatever Python code you want. So what's actually happening under the hood when you do that? So if we have our computer here that has our Excel, to make these kind of multiple groups of Pythonistas, Excel pros, and IT admins happy, the Python is actually running in a cloud container. So that basically means there isn't any, there's not that same risk of possibly compromising other things that are on your machine. And it's a partnership actually with Anaconda. So the distribution of Python that you're actually using in that cloud container is your pretty typical Anaconda build, or like you download Anaconda, that's what you get. It's less a few package because a lot of them have been audited for security purposes, again, to kind of make the security folks happy. But it really has pretty much all the packages, at least I'm familiar with using, like Matplotlib, SciPy, Pandas, Xarray, scikit-learn, NLTK, like there's machine learning stuff, there's plotting stuff. You have a lot of options, so, it really does cover a lot of what you need. So there's a specific module that has called the XL module. It's very creatively named, but that exists in this environment, and that's basically the shuttle that takes data from your Excel instance to the Jupyter kernel. And it is literally a Jupyter notebook kernel in the backend because every cell, what is a spreadsheet if not a 2D Jupyter notebook? So that's basically what's going on kind of under the hood. And Excel can understand when the Jupyter kernel returns different data types. It maps anything that it kind of natively could understand otherwise, so things like dates or strings, numbers, images even. Some of the more complex things, like if you have a class or an object or something that's returned, that's totally okay. Excel isn't necessarily going to display anything nice about it. It will say object. But you can continue working with the value of that cell and other things, and that's not a big deal. And this container, you can think of as a very ephemeral thing. Like because it is a very fixed, it spins up when you run the first cell and will shut itself down. So there's no you have to manage an instance of a container running somewhere. That's all handled automatically. So, yeah, one of the things that I found really exciting, like that actually got me interested in trying to work with this team and help out with folks, which I realized I did not introduce myself, My name is Dr. Sarah Kaiser. I'm a Python developer advocate. So I generally work with all kinds of different Python tooling across the company, but this one, they came to me and were like, you've done spreadsheet things before, like come give this a test drive and see how this works out. But I was super excited when they started talking about this kind of as a collaboration tool. So I spend a lot of time trying to help people understand how to set up environments in Python, and do we set up a Docker container? Do I set up a Colab or Jupyter Notebook instance? Like, it's just kind of a mess. Usually I just have some data and some small-ish script thing that I want to send to somebody. So the idea that I could just send them a link to this Excel spreadsheet that they could just immediately use and use the Python was really interesting to me. And just like a lot of other Microsoft products, there is a Copilot that is specifically tuned to help you write Python. So one of the kind of user groups I've been working with on this is actually our own internal finance team. So they've all are mostly Excel pros. They're super keen on learning Python now, but didn't really know how to they're like, should I download Anaconda, or like, what's the right next step? I could just say, nope, just click on the button, type PY, and you can start experimenting. And so they actually have been using the built-in Copilot, and there's a mode of the Copilot called Advanced Analysis, which is the specific model meant for helping you write Python and do analytics sort of tasks. You can ask what is the best visualization for this sort of data set? And it can help you write the Python code to do all of that. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to hop right to the real thing. And I can show you. So the spreadsheet I'm showing you here is actually, if you have access to it, you just kind of go to the home menu. It's right here. So it's a good resource. And probably the next obvious question is, how do you get it? Right now, it's in public preview. Most corporate licenses now already have it. You can add it to a personal M365 license if you join the developer program. Hopefully this will all get a lot easier when it is finally GA'd, hopefully sometime soon. But yeah, they're basically, at the resource I'll show you at the end, you can kind of go through and figure out based on your license and what you have, but it is available on all platforms. So it's available for Mac, Windows, and in the web version as well. So at least your platform does not matter. So I can go to a cell like this, and I can just type equals PY. And you notice a couple things happened here. I got a green bar showing up both on the side of my text entry field there, as well as in the spreadsheet. So that's kind of the reminder notification that lets you know that this is not just a regular Python or just a regular spreadsheet cell, it's actually a Python cell. So I can do something like, what's the basic test test thing here? You can see it says busy, and that's how quickly the kind of that remote kernel connect goes. Like, I never really, there's no cold load time or anything. So we get to this. Now you can see there's also still a little marker here in the cell that is a little badge that says PY. I can click that. And part of the partnership with Anaconda is we have this nice kind of data card preview for what is in that cell. So if the cell output there is a Python output, then this data card, like this one is kind of simple because, well, it's just an int. That's not a big deal. But we'll look at some more complicated ones. So here, I can do the same thing. If I can't remember what the formula or something is, I can go to the formulas bar, and I can close and reopen this because I have a bug from demo versions. 1 second. This is the trouble with dog fooding, multiple different versions of an app at the same time. I'm just going to reopen that. There we go. Excellent. Cool. So here I have 2 cells. I actually already typed in, so the same thing, 1 + 1. But you notice how this one has this badge still, this one does not. So one of the really interesting things here is you're working with your data in Python, and you can actually just kind of fluidly go back and forth between using Excel formulas and calculations and Python stuff. So, which is usually what's been hard if you have to do the round trip thing of like, export your spreadsheet, do a bunch of stuff in Python, come back. So if you're walking up to like maybe like this legacy process where your whole company is a database in Excel and you need to interface with the things that are already there, if all of those formulas should take pretty seamlessly all of the Python output, but if they don't, you can basically say, okay, Excel, you understand what this value is. Can you change the output type? So I can do that here by changing this little selector here. So I can say I'd like the output to be either a Python object or an Excel value. So basically that kind of, when you switch it to an Excel value, which is what this one is already switched to, it basically, Excel does not pass along any other history or understand. It's just a cell as if you typed in that number. It does update, but like nothing else, none of the other metadata or anything else is passed along, so that any other Excel functions that are using that, they're none the wiser. And so it works out pretty well. You can so here's, trying to make this bigger. So one thing, it's a little tricky. Okay, I cannot make that bigger, but I can do this. So if I go to the formulas thing here, one other way, if you want to make a cell a Python cell, you can go to your formulas bar. This is where you're gonna find all of your kind of Python options tools. So you can just hit insert Python and that'll automatically turn that cell into a Python cell. And it'll also pop open this kind of helpful banner on the side with some examples if you want to kind of see how to load data, try out some plotting stuff, which is super helpful. But the other buttons here that are kind of interesting, so I mentioned it's a Jupyter kernel in the back end. So you have kind of if something is borked, gone wrong, you want to restart the kernel, or maybe you tried to ask it to do something too big. You can restart the kernel here or just restart the whole runtime. The thing that I really, really like because as you can tell, like editing Python code in like a 1 to 3 line window was not a terribly great user experience. And this was one of the first things we were developing the product that we were kind of iterating on feedback about. So what we have now, though, is basically a Jupyter Notebook editor, if it would load, please, where we can see all of the Python cells throughout the whole spreadsheet. So even if they're kind of scattered amongst a bunch of different worksheets, or even potentially you have like a worksheet that's pulling in things from other places, like you can see them in a consolidated view, which is super nice. I don't know why this is. Please load, please. And then the other thing we have here is the initialization pane, which right now, when that kind of container starts up, there's an initialization script that's run, which basically automatically imports pandas, numpy, scipy, like basically does all the standard imports you would probably have at the beginning of your stuff anyway. So you can just go ahead and start using things. In the future, may be the case that you can actually edit that. So say at your company, you do a lot of stuff with Seaborn, and you want to have Seaborn loaded and particular templates activated or set as defaults at the beginning. You can put in like even custom functions, like if you have some particular analyses, you can put all that in that initialization. And then that just happens, nobody has to think about it. And as soon as they open the notebook, it's running. I have no idea why that's not loading. I'm gonna try closing it one more time. But other than that, when you run the cells, obviously we've got the 2D matrix now. They evaluate left to right, top to bottom, and then sheets left to right. So that's, for my own sanity, I often just use, come on. just use one column at a time. I find like scattering my Python in 2 dimensions gets a little hard for me to follow, but then again, the being able to have the editor pane. I wonder if it's, oh, it's probably because might be having internet problems. That is the one downside, is it does require network connectivity, obviously, to connect to the remote kernel. But something you may also kind of, if you are interested in a local-only experience, one of the things that our partners at Anaconda have created is other extensions you can install into Excel that allow you to actually run with PyScript Python in the grid locally in the actual Excel window itself. So obviously then that limits it to packages in that distro that are PyScript compatible. So if you want to do machine learning, that's probably going to be a little bit harder. But if you just need to do some quick visualization with Matplotlib, that'd probably work. All right, it's loaded. Excellent. I think my computer was just waffling on the Wi-Fi. But yeah, so you can see here, like we can look at a bunch of our different cells. We've typed things in. And the main reason I wanted this is because I can zoom this window. So you can kind of see here. So this is an example. I can just go straight to the cell by clicking here. This is how we load data from somewhere in our spreadsheet into the Jupyter kernel. This function returns a data frame. And I can just basically say, you know, here's a cell range. I can also specify a named table. I can name a pivot table. I can name, if you're familiar with Power Query in Excel, which is a way you can actually pull in data from like databases. You can have named queries, so you can just put the name of that query there, and then that pulls that data in. And then you can see it's very heavily integrated with pandas because it returns data frames. That's kind of its inherent. I mean, they're effectively a spreadsheet anyway. So let's look at. I would like to look at the plots. Okay, so one of the kind of 2 main things, you know, somebody might say, well, I'm really good at Excel already. Why do I need Python? 2 things that I think Python kind of adds to this environment that is hard or possibly impossible to do in Excel. There are a lot of libraries in this image that do machine learning sorts of things. So if you want to do, say you have a spreadsheet of a dump from your customer feedback tool where you have a bunch of like blurbs, review blurbs and stuff, you could actually do sentiment analysis on those blurbs just in Excel and, you know, hand it off to your marketing team or whoever needs to see that. They can play around with the plots. So kind of having access to some of those more advanced like machine learning or like financial modeling packages that are included, that's, you know, they might implement those in Excel, but that'd probably take a lot of effort. So they can with just one line be like, I would like this analysis, and they get a huge report, which is great. The other is plotting and visualization. Like if what you need is a line chart, a bar chart, or like a scatter plot, Excel's probably got you covered. But say you want to do stuff where like you have a bunch of plots that share axes, or like if I go to do, let me just show you an example of one. If I want like a nice multivariate sort of thing where all the plots line up, it was not listening to escape. I don't know why. Like it. Okay, I did Alt Tab away. That's fine. I just want to insert the sample, dang it. There we go. Okay, so yeah, like here, I mean, this is the most typical data set. It's like the iris data set for machine learning stuff. But, you know, I can, in this cell here, then actually generate this pretty complicated plot, like at least in terms of Excel, in Excel terms, where I have my category. The machine learning's already identified the categories. It's doing the different colors based on that. And that's, you know, just that many lines in Python. So that's like a huge new opportunity and space for folks that are interested in like actually doing some really interesting visualization stuff that they don't have to round trip to another tool or another dashboard sorts of things. One of the things that I've been enjoying helping folks set up is like, you can turn these charts into sheets themselves. So say you don't have like a dashboarding tool to show to execs or something like that, just make an Excel, have Matplotlib actually make you a bunch of subplots, and then they can just look at that sheet. And then you can edit and update data and stuff in between. So yeah, that's kind of a quick tour of some of the, what's coming up with Python and Excel. Does anybody have any questions? Thanks. Sorry for the network issues. I think that was just, it was trying to ask for the remote kernel and then not getting anything, and then, but not telling me that. So yeah. Awesome. You can find more resources and like how to install or check this out or try it at aka.ms/pycon. So we have all of our links there.